Hello. So this is my top 17 albums of 2021. 17 is an arbitrary number. It's just the numbers of albums that I really enjoyed. Um, I hope that whoever's watching will get some good recommendations. And in the comment section on YouTube, I hope I can get some good recommendations as well for things that I missed, because I find that a lot of the music I come to love tends to be from these year-end lists that people make. So I'm contributing my my input to that, I suppose. Let's get started. So the first one, if it'll work for me, the first one is Butterfly 3000 by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Oh, by the way, this first section is not in any particular order, so I'm not like ranking it by numbers for the first half. But yeah, this is a great album. It took me a bit to really like it, I suppose. The mix kind of was something that had to grow on me. But I really like the consistent style that they put through. The melodies are really catchy, and that sequencer that they're using is a lot of fun. So I think this is definitely worth listening to beyond this year, I suppose, and fits in well with the kind of canon of King Gizzard albums. I wouldn't say it's their best, definitely not their worst, though. It's right in the middle. Next album we're looking at is Roadrunner New Light, New Machine by Brockhampton. I listened to this one a lot this year just because I love Brockhampton. I was torn about putting this in the list, though, because the back end is not that great, in my opinion. Like, not the very last song, but maybe the 8th to 11th song kind of didn't excite me, but this is a really... if you like Brockhampton, then you're going to like this. I don't have a whole lot to say on it. It's a good album. I like the features. I especially like on a Bankroll. I know this is a song that was like we were kind of anticipating for a while, so it was great to finally get it. Also, a Buzzcut. I really love that song. And I'm excited to see them. I think I'm seeing them in April if COVID doesn't mess that up. Inside by Bo Burnham. I'm counting this as an album. If you don't, I completely understand. But to me, this was a great, really touched me in a lot of ways. It touched a lot of people. But it was funny. It was sad. It was one of the few pieces of art that really connected with what it's like being isolated, but not in a really exhausting way. You know, it wasn't like, yeah, I've heard this before, we're all dealing with this, whatever. It's like it was his own kind of compelling take on being isolated. And the songs are great. The synths are really cool. It does kind of sound like the stock synths in Logic or whatever DAW he was using. It sounds like Logic to me. So it was a little bit one-dimensional in that sense. But the reason you listen to this album isn't for the, synths and stuff. The synths are great overall. Like they do carry it through. But you listen to this album for Bo Burnham's wit and his lyricism. God, he packs so much into each line. It's hard to like parse it out all in one go. I had to watch the video, I think 5 or 6 times, and listen to the album multiple times to really capture everything that he was saying. So I definitely would put this in my top albums of the year, even if it's more than an album, I guess. The Talk Memory by Bad Bad Not Good. This was I got this as a gift record over Christmas season, so I haven't listened to it more than 5 or 10 times, but the fact that I've listened to it around 10 times since Christmas tells you a lot. Oh no, it was my birthday. My birthday is beginning of December. But it's a great album, really spacey, really beautiful musicianship. It's instrumental, jazzy, but it's not typical jazz, I suppose. It's definitely got the more space jazz, psychedelic jazz. Definitely takes you somewhere. The songs are like pieces rather than, songs. It was hard for me to kind of name a part of the album that was so good because it all kind of flows in a really beautiful way. So it's definitely a thing that you listen to all the way through. You can't really take a song out of it, or a single or whatever. But great album. It is still new to me, so I'm not sure if it'll be something I listen to, 5 years from now. I suspect it will from how good it is, but we will see. Solar Power by Lord. This is a great kind of alt pop album, if you can call it alt pop. Has a lot of nice soft rock elements. I really, it's like endearing, her lyrics. They're not necessarily always clever, but they're really they're really touching. I really like Stoned at the Nail Salon, and the first 3 tracks on the album just really make me happy. It's a happy album compared to the other albums that Lorde has put out. So it definitely fits into her catalog well. Like, I will listen to this probably as much as I'll listen to Melodrama. So yeah. Next one is By the Time I Get to Phoenix by Injury Reserve. So I wasn't sure about putting this in like the main part of this kind of list. At first, it was very abrasive. At first, I didn't click with me, but the more I listened to it, the more I love it. There's nothing really like it. It's hip hop, but it's like sci-fi space noises. If you've seen that meme of Mr. Krabs with like the swirling background and he's like kind of disoriented, it sounds like that as an album. And I really enjoyed Injury Reserve for like their 2016 stuff, like Oh Shit. So this really kind of caught me off guard, but definitely worth the experience. It's definitely an experience, and I wouldn't, show this to anyone. It has to be someone who really wants to kind of change or try something very different. Not that they need to change, is that they need to try something that's kind of outside of the realm of, typical music, I suppose. But yeah, now I crave it, and there's nothing else like it, so it had to go on my chart. Next is Epic 10 by Sharon Von Eaton. This is one I kind of got into later in the year, around October, and it's just a nice album. It's nice indie rock with like country little elements in there, and what's cool about it is that it's 7 songs, and then it's a repeat of those 7 songs, but it's done by different artists. So you got bands like Courtney Barnett, Idols, Big Red Machine, which is like the National, and Bon Iver. So it's really neat getting 2 full versions of this album, and the songwriting's great, so it's worth it. I wouldn't listen to both in the same sitting. I would listen to one or the other. But it's a neat little thing, and I just got into her this year, so it was nice to have an album to accompany that new discovery, I suppose. Next is All Day Gentle Hold by Porches. This album, it's just another Porches album to me. Like the last 3 or 4 Porches albums kind of all have the same kind of vibe, and this really fits in with that vibe. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Porches album, but it definitely has held me over for the year. I hope there isn't like a delay with my speaking in the mic. That would really suck. Next album is Palais Darjeel by Feu Chatterton. This is a great French like alt pop indie rock type thing. Um, really long album, but it's really great songwriting, really kind of dancey. Um, yeah, I mean, the back end of it doesn't hold me very much, but like the first 5 or 6 songs are really great. So I've definitely listened to this quite a bit this year, and it's nice to have something in French to listen to. I don't get enough French albums in my life, so yeah, that's it was nice. It gets like bonus points because of that. Next is City Slicker by Ginger Root. This is an EP, but I freaking love this thing. This would be in like my top 5 or whatever if it was a full album, but it is just an EP. But every song on this is a banger. It's so groovy. It's very groovy. Just makes me want to go like this. Has like city pop, indie pop kind of vibes. I can't tell if it's a solo project or not. It kind of seems like it, but definitely a very well done EP. I can't wait to hear more from Ginger Root. And there is some stuff in his backlog that is great too, but I was definitely listening to Loretta a lot this year. I think it's probably the song I listened to the most from this year, and it's on this EP. So the next section is honorable mentions. These are albums that I listened to and I enjoyed, but I don't see myself listening to them much in the next, 5-10 years, or I didn't listen to them enough this year that I had much to say about them. So I'll just kind of give it a brief kind of my thoughts. There's 12 songs in this. Not songs. There's 12 albums in this honorable mention section. So here we go. Arlo Parks, Collapsed in Sunbeams. This album, it's very pleasant, and I do really like it. But I just didn't listen to it enough. It if I'd listened to it a few more times, it might have ended up in like the main portion of my list, but not quite. An Evening with Silk Sonic. This album, it's fun, and it's a good album, but it is very one note. It is it doesn't grip me. Like, it's fun, but I also the Bruno Mars kind of elements of it are really feels very plastic, feels very Disney. I love Anderson .Paak, and like I enjoy this album, but I don't see myself listening to it again, much after the hype is gone. And there are other examples of albums that came out this year that have kind of a really good 70s vibe, and this is just not I mean, it is that, but it's not good enough for me to hold it up for a while after its release, I suppose. Things That Take Time by Courtney Barnett. I love Courtney Barnett. She's one of my kind of absolute favorites when it comes to songwriting, but this album was just kind of okay. Like, I enjoyed it, and I'll listen to it some more, but Valentine by Snail Mail. At first I didn't like this album, but the more I listen to it, the more it grows on me. She has this very vocal cry technique that she uses in her voice quite a lot, so if you like that, then you'll like this album, but if you don't, you will not. It's a different style for her, from what I know of Snail Mail, so it's a nice twist. Forever Sailing, I absolutely love that song, but don't see myself listening to this album very much after this year. Luno by Blood Cultures. This is one that I kind of just figured out existed in the last week or two of the year. I really like their album Happy Birthday. And the more I listen to it, the more I like it, but it is kind of it's not a very memorable sound. It's spacey bedroom pop type stuff. Genesis Owusu, Smiling with No Teeth. This is another album where I didn't give it a chance until the end of the year, so I enjoyed it, but I have a hard time listening to the whole thing. Like, I get kind of bored at the end. I guess that's a common theme with some of these albums. But the production's great, and the songs I do like, the hits are really great. But it's just in my honorable mentions because I didn't listen to it enough. Both the albums that came out by Rap Ferreira is one of my favorite rapper, probably is my favorite artist, period. but these two albums didn't really hold up to kind of the standard I have for Rap for Era. Not to say that they're bad albums. I like Light Emitting Diamond Cutter Scriptures a little bit more than Bob's Son, and that one might kind of grow on me more as time goes on. But it definitely feels more on like the mixtape kind of level of quality in comparison to like Purple Moonlight Pages or some of his Milo albums. So it's definitely a worthy listen if you like kind of the lo-fi underground hip hop, but not the thing I would be recommending to people for their first listen for Rap for Era, without a doubt. Drunk Tank Pink by Shame. This is a great punk album. Reminds me of like Idols, but it's more teenage-y, I suppose. But I hardly can remember the songs on it. But still a great listen. Tyrone or Tyrone by Slow Tie. That one I really liked at the time it came out, like the month that it came out. But I haven't listened to it much since, so I don't know if that means I've forgotten about it, or I don't know. Wild Bandy Show. This is I was considering putting this album in like the rest of like the main chart, but it just sounds like every other Andy Schoaf album. It's very similar. And I love those albums, so this is a great album, but it doesn't blow my mind in any way. I've already heard this before. I Don't Live Here Anymore by War on Drugs. Same way I feel about the Courtney Barnett album. Like, I like the War on Drugs quite a bit, but this album is kind of just a wash to me. Like, it's very mid-tier. Worth listening, but there's other War on Drugs albums I prefer to listen to. All right, so this is my top 7, and the reason why I made a top 7 rather than a top 5 is these are the albums that are my absolute favorites of the year. I will absolutely be listening to these later on, and I couldn't separate them quality wise. So like, there's kind of like the first segment of this video is probably like the B tier, and then these are like the S or A, if you're using a tier system, I suppose. So first one is Fishmonger by Underscores. This is an awesome, like, hyper pop, but also pop punk thing. There's sounds on this, a combination sound that I've never heard before in this way. And I just crave it. It's such a fun album all the way through. The last two songs, I think, and maybe the last one about the creature or whatever, that one I kind of get bored of now because I've listened to this album so many times. But the hits like Spoiled Little Brat, like Bozo Bozo Bozo, those 10 out of 10 songs, listen to them all the time. This is probably the album I listened to most this year, I think, all the way through. Doesn't mean it's my favorite of this year. It's just the one that like I was listening to a lot because there's nothing like it to me. So that craving could only be satisfied with this album. Whereas other albums, there's similar stuff. I can meet that craving another way. So anyway, next one is Daddy's Home by St. Vincent. So when I was talking about the Silk Sonic album, I mentioned that, there's other albums that did that 70s sound and, caught my interest more. And this album is definitely what I was talking about. It's a beautiful album all the way through. It's nostalgic, but it's new. And I've never really loved a St. Vincent album all the way through until this one. This is, to me, her best work. And the songwriting's great. It's compelling. And the production's wonderful. It's just high quality in every sense of the word. I'm really happy that I got to hear this album this year. And it will be something that I listen to for quite some time, without a doubt. Whereas the Underscores album, I think other albums bands will come up in that sound. So it's kind of like a a precursor, whereas this one I don't hear a lot that's exactly this. And that last point didn't make sense. Don't worry about it. Moving on. This is Okay Human by Weezer. I love Weezer. Their albums can be hit and miss, and this one to me is a big hit. The orchestration done at Abbey Road really makes this album quite lush. He does have a couple boomer cringe moments, especially on numbers and screens, but otherwise it's a stellar album. I listen to this one quite a bit too, and emotionally I really connect with this album. I mean, it's another, pandemic album, but the perspective on it is still quite nice for the most part. So if you like Weezer, definitely worth listening. Also, if you like Coldplay's classic stuff, it's Baroque pop or classic, classical pop. It's worth listening to. Next is I Know I'm Funny by Faye Webster. This is less country than her other album. Still has some of those elements in it, and wow, it breaks my heart listening to this every time. I'm in like a little fetal position, little puddle when I listen to this. It's so tender and so sweet. It's just a lot. It's a lot emotionally. And it's a great album, production wise too. Certainly a great listen for that romantic, feely, lonely or troubled times, so worth listening to for that. Just the feelings of it all. Ska Dream by Jeff Rosenstock. I did not like No Dream, the album that this is based on. So this is a ska version of the album No Dream. When I listen to No Dream, I'm like, this is too rough. This is too all over the place. The timing didn't sync up very well, and I couldn't really connect with it. But this ska version of the album is so great. I'm always craving good ska. And it's so good to get a new ska album in 2021. And Jeff Rosenstock, he's a veteran of the, third wave ska movement, so he knows what he's doing. And it was so lovely just to this album. Ice Melt by Crum. This is another great release by Crum. Crum does not make bad music. Every single EP and album they've put out has been so good. It's like psychedelic indie rock, they just know how to do it so well. The instrumentation's great, the songwriting's great, the production is the best Crum has ever been. They definitely play around with studio elements a bit more on this album. I think after I'm done recording this, I'm gonna listen to this album again right away, just because it's a great album. It's hard for me to pick out a song from it. Maybe B&R. Just every song is so good. I just listen to it all the way through every time. Yeah, definitely. If this would be the album of any that I'd recommend to pretty much anyone. It's just really good quality. But the last album I want to mention in my top 7, so like I said before, these top 7 are kind of all similar quality to me. This is A Beginner's Mind by Sufjan Stevens and Angelo De Augustine. My friend told me how to pronounce Sufjan Stevens. I pronounced it Sufjan for the longest time, but now I know. But anyway, this album is really great if you're looking for that classic Sufjan Stevens sound, like how he does on Illinois and Carrie and Lowell. The more folky, acoustic instruments and the voice pairing of Sufjan and Angelo is perfect. Like, it's such a great duet pairing. I think in Fantano's review, he said it kind of sounded like they were pandering, and on sometimes I do feel that. It does feel like they're doing exactly what I want them to do. But yeah, it's a great album. Really soothing. The lyrics aren't as personal on this album because it's all based on, whatever movie they were watching together. Which can be a little jarring, when there's these beautiful strings, and then, Sufjan Stevens talking about you give death a bad name. It's it's strange in that way, but it's such a worthy album. If you like Sufjan Stevens, this is a great album to listen to. It pairs really well with all of his other stuff and touches my heart with the musical elements of it more than the lyrical elements, I suppose. Anyway, that's it. For the people watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this list, and please do give me your recommendations or any thoughts you had on any of the albums I mentioned. I'd really appreciate that. I'm always looking for more new things to listen to. Yeah, I'm going to do more Twitch streaming soon. I took a little break, but I will get back into it, making music and stuff. Oh, I did make a folk punk EP, and that's strictly on my Bandcamp. So if you want to go to Garden Mice at Bandcamp, you will find a silly little folk punk EP that I put out this year. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day. Bye-bye.